Wonderful. Should we get started? Wonderful. So let's get started. So we're running a kind of late, but I think we'll make up for it. So I'm absolutely delighted to welcome you to our first in-person Louissaint dementia meeting in over 2 years. My name is Dr. Rimona. I'm a consultant neurologist, and I specialise in Lewy body dementia. And we've got a fantastic and really interactive programme for you this morning. It's so wonderful to see some sort of familiar faces and some new faces as well today. I'm going to do the housekeeping points first. So, toilets, now everyone concentrate. To get to the toilets, you have to go out that door, down towards reception, turn left and up the stairs. Apparently they're very nice. There are some, there is a disabled toilet on this level if you need, and Nikki can direct you to where that is, and that's I think out to the right. But apparently, if you can make the effort, it's worth it. We're not expecting a fire alarm, so if the fire alarm does go off, then we all need to go out that way again towards reception and out, and that's the way out. So if we've got our So our plan for this morning, our main program, our main program will start with a short talk from Hannah Louissaint on the benefits of exercise, followed by a practical session. I'm going to introduce Hannah properly in a minute. And then we're going to have a taste of dance for Parkinson's from Danielle Jones and her musician Randolph is here. And at 12:20 we're going to break for lunch. At 1:30 we're going to break up into 3 small groups. Hannah is going to lead a session on falls prevention, and then Roberta's going to Roberta back is going to lead a session on support, and I will do a Q&A session. So it's kind of whatever you want. Looking forward to seeing what that will be. And then our aim is we'll close at 2 o'clock. So I'm going to just point out some helpers in the room. So Nikki, who's really the mastermind behind everything. So thank you, Nikki Zimmerman. Yes, it's lovely to actually see you in person. Shayna at the back. Oh no, Shayna's here. Stephanie. Over National Baby Hill. And oh no, Karen at the back, yes. Millie. Okay, yes, thank you. Brilliant. And then we've got from my team, we've got Rohan, Dr. Rohan Bome, who some of you have met already, and Evelina, was it at the back, waving? You'll come into the main circle, everybody. And Anna, where's Anna? Oh, Anna also at the back. So Anna is a student in our programme, and Evelina and Rohan are running our research program. So if some of you will already know them, but if you're interested in taking part in research or sort of want to know more about it, then have a chat with Rohan and Evelina. Also, we're looking for volunteers to help us with a focus group about outcomes and how we measure outcomes in one of our trials. So if you want to be part of that focus group, could you maybe come and chat to me or to Rohan, and we can let you know about it. And Nikki, do you want me to talk about Camic as well? Yeah, Paul is here. Brilliant. So before we start, I'd like to introduce Paul Camic. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Wonderful. So Paul is a clinical psychologist and professor of health and psychology in the Dementia Research Centre at UCL. And he's been involved in arts and health-related research for over 20 years. His research has involved the visual arts and more recently music as well, and more recently poetry within dementia care and support. And outside of academia, he's a printmaker and has a studio in East Sussex. So he's currently working with the dementia support team and a poet with the aim of creating poems from the words of people who attend these meetings. So I'll hand over to you.
When I'm researching poetry, there's 2 words that probably don't feel like they have a good fit together, but we really think they do. From our experiences of looking at the literature, poetry, and dementia, we developed a series of different protocols, and we're going to look at how we understand poetry within rare dementia support, which is the first time it's been done. No one's looked at use of poetry within rare dementia. So over the past 2 years, we've created, during the first sort of stages of the pandemic, we created online 36 poems with participants in Canada, the UK, Singapore, and Switzerland. And those have now been published in a book, and that book is now being sold by National Brain Appeal, and all the proceeds go to support RDS. This stage, we really want to understand different experiences of people who attend RDS support groups. And this would also be true of people who are attending virtually as well. So we're asking you to all participate. It is voluntary today to participate. And we'd like to collect your words. And in front of you, I believe, we will soon have, yes, Julia, thank you very much. We have also pens available too. There'll be 2 questions we'd like you to consider. And as Nikki's passing those out, I'll just read them again. It's easy to read. So in the space below, sorry? Did you get to use the mic? Okay. So in the space below, please anonymously respond to one of the following questions. There's 2 questions. We're asking you to use 1 or more words up to a sentence, but if you want to write more than a sentence, that's fine too. It's completely fine too. You can use any words that you want. We're not suggesting words that you want, but we want you to consider poetry as creating something. Consider words that bring your own experiences into the poem, involving emotions, ideas, thoughts, and I would say something from maybe the heart as well as from the mind. So think about those words, and again, they don't have to connect with each other. They can be in a sentence, however you want to do it. We will collect those words today. For the people participating online, they have a link to send their words in. And then our consulting poet, Lawrence Wilson, will be putting your words together in the form of a poem. And will explain his poetic process as well. So you get back the poem, his process in creating the poem, and a list of all your original words. At the end of the year, we're collecting these from all the which you will receive a PDF copy of all the poems from each of the support groups that are created. You are out. So we finished the I'm around all day, so if you have any questions that you have. Okay, it should be on the sheet.
Oh, can you repeat the question?
Okay, I think you passed that along, maybe. The questions are, how does the support group support with someone living with LBD or as a carer with LBD? And the second question is, or, okay, give me one.
Support you as someone that is LBD, or is it care partner?
That's okay, no worries. Then the second question is, or if you are new to this group, how would you like the group to support? What support do you need for this group? So if you're new to the group, or excluded. So in any words you like, we really appreciate that, and it's all voluntary, and we'll be collecting them at lunchtime, but I'm here all day answering questions. Any other questions? Thank you very much. If you want.
We're going to give people 2 minutes to do the questions. And if you want to carry on later, then you can do it later. Maybe Hannah, you can just come up front. Okay, yes, maybe you can monitor it. So Paul's going to collect them in the breaks, and you collect your answers in the breaks. So if you want a bit more time, so I think we're going to. Are people sort of ready to move on? Yeah. Wonderful. So, so let's just check it sound, check the Zoom. I think I have the Zoom sound, but the audio is not perfect. We're trying to resolve it. But I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Hannah Louissaint, who has over 15 years of experience as a physiotherapist and has specialised in neurology for 13 of those 15 years. She's worked with patients with a wide range of neurological conditions, including stroke and neuromuscular disease, and has established the physiotherapy outpatient service of the movement disorders team in January of this year at Queen Square. So she particularly has been helping us and supporting actually the Lewy body clinic as well, helping patients primarily with walking and with balance problems, and supporting to engage patients to engage in more physical activity. So I'm absolutely delighted to have Hannah here. So we're going to talk a bit about some of the theory, and then we're all going to get active and do some actual exercises as well.
Thank you very much, Rimona. Thank you. Can everyone hear me who's in the room? Yes. And please do feedback if you're on Zoom as struggling to hear. Okay, so as Rimona said, I'm going to keep the talking brief today. It really is a whistle-stop tour on benefits of exercise, because it's a huge topic and I've talked all day. You've given me the chance, so really it's just a very brief overview. We're going to start actually by talking about some of the barriers that we might have to think about overcoming in order to participate in exercise, and then thinking about how important exercise is, and what can you do people who are living with Lewy body dementia, and also as carers, also thinking about your own well-being. Just a word in terms of terminology, you'll notice that I have written Parkinson's in my presentation. That's because most of the literature is looking at idiopathic Parkinson's, but really all of this information applies to all types of Parkinson's, including Lewy body dementia as well. So don't let that confuse you. Okay. Okay, so the reason I wanted to start by talking about some of the barriers is because for some people, actually, the first thing is not really knowing that exercise is important in any neurological condition, but specifically in Parkinson's. And if you don't know it's important, or why would you even really consider it? It might be that some people don't give it the priority in their lifestyle, in their routine. Perhaps some people have not been active throughout their lives, and so actually exercise is probably quite a big thing to consider starting when you've already got a condition. And then there might be more sort of symptomatic reasons why people aren't participating in exercise. So thinking about some of particularly the non-motor symptoms, such as poor sleep, fatigue, and not really having the energy to be able to participate. Also, mood is a big factor, and that's strongly linked with our motivation. And so to be able to actually get up and try and do something physically can be a massive hurdle to overcome. Pain and or injury obviously can affect us, and also an anxiety or concern that you might fall when you're participating in exercise obviously is a very real factor as well. So what I would say is, if you do have specific concerns, everyone is an individual, and we're going to be doing a little bit of exercise today, hopefully that will suit everyone. But thinking about exercise long term, if you do have concerns, can be very useful to talk to a physiotherapist or other health professional before starting exercise, so you know what's safe and what you're capable of, and you can build your confidence in a graded way. does exercise matter? So I've written 4 main points there, hopefully it's clear enough to see. Firstly, what we, most importantly in terms of physiotherapy, what we're really trying to work on at an impairment level is preventing and improving the secondary effects of the condition. So by secondary effects, what I mean are those physical impairments that come on as a result of the direct symptoms. So for example, if you've got slowness of walking, that can mean that we don't put our joints or our muscles through the full range of movement. And that can then lead to joint stiffness, muscle tightness, can lead to pain. So you can start to see that actually you build up these secondary problems. The reduction in balance can be a direct symptom, but it can also be an indirect symptom of the condition. And also, if we're less active, then that automatically reduces our fitness and our endurance capacity. Also, if we have muscle tightness, it can also impact on how big a breath we can take, how strong a cough we can manage, which can then also lead to problems if we have coughs and colds and chest infections. It can make things a bit more difficult. So really, fundamentally, exercise is firstly about trying to reduce and minimise all of those secondary complications as much as possible. And as they start to creep in, trying to really stay in control of them, really. There's also a huge amount of research across the board, across all neurological conditions, actually, about the benefits of exercise and improving our non-motor symptoms. And so that's anything from fatigue, so managing fatigue. We know that by doing more exercise, it will enable us to have better energy levels, and also improving sleep, and obviously that's linked as well. There's a lot of research as well that's been demonstrated in improving mood. So we know that actually if we can start implementing exercise, it can really boost mood and reduces our anxiety, and also have a positive effect on cognition. So it has actually been shown that some cognitive factors can be, cognitive problems can be lowered, such as speeding up cognitive processing, for example. Thirdly, there's some more emerging research. This is all fairly new in the last decade or two. Again, particularly this is in research in idiopathic Parkinson's, but I think it's useful to highlight here, is that there's some understanding that exercise could potentially have a role in slowing down the disease progression. And that is a huge, huge thing that in research that we're starting to understand. Obviously, there is no medication that does that, and if exercise potentially has that benefit, then this could potentially open up a huge whole new world. So what we're really trying to encourage people to do is exercise from as early on in the condition as possible for this reason. And this potentially could have a benefit on the direct symptoms. So again, thinking about slowness of movement, rigidity, it could potentially have an impact at sort of fighting the disease at that level. And overall, thinking about all of those factors, what we're really trying to do is improve functional ability and quality of life. So really trying to manage and allow people to feel more in control of their bodies and their symptoms. That hopefully leads to an improvement in functional capacity, so to be able to do more and do more of the things that you want to be able to do, not that you have to do like housework necessarily. And overall a better quality of life. So I've actually only included one article here. I wanted to, or Rimona would actually ask me to put in a bit of literature about the benefits of exercise. I think this is probably the key article for you to learn about. And this was done by RADA in 2020, and it's a meta-analysis. So it's a review of all the literature out there for different types of exercise and the benefits or no benefits that it has on certain symptoms in Parkinson's. And really the main conclusion is that exercise is very beneficial, but also different types of exercise have different benefits. And I think there's probably two learning points from that. The first is that it's important probably to have a variety of exercise in your lives. But secondly, also if there's a specific impairment or a specific problem that you want to overcome, then it's useful to know what type of exercise is the most beneficial, because that is going to help you target your treatment and your exercise. So, for example, for motor symptoms, what they found looking at all these articles was that they were improved by conventional physio, dance, martial arts, Nordic walking, balance and gait training. Balance was specifically improved with strategy chain training, which is like the use of cues, and dance, but specifically not using treadmill training. And gait has improved basically with every type of exercise that they looked at, but actually not dual tasking or exergating, which is using your Xbox type balance challenges. Although there is a lot of evidence for that, but just not in gait in walking. Okay, so really just trying to keep it quite simple, thinking about exercise recommendations. The guidance that's out there internationally is that we want to be looking at aerobic exercise. We're wanting to do aerobic exercise for 2.5 hours a week. Now, aerobic exercise is anything that gets you moderately out of breath. That's anything that you're still able to hold a conversation, but you're a little bit out of the path. Anything up to sort of vigorous exercise. You know, the more vigorous the better, but as long as you're getting a bit out of breath, that's really the most important thing. 2.5 hours a week might sound a lot, particularly if you already lead quite a sedentary lifestyle. That might feel quite a big challenge, and it's not about starting this week and suddenly going from 0 to 2.5 hours. You would want to do that in a graded way. But that time can be broken up into any amount you want. It could be 5 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time. And we can think about ways you can incorporate aerobic exercise into your routine in a bit. So it can be, and also I should probably say in terms of terminology, I'm using the word exercise, and when we define that, that's talking about prescriptive amounts of exercise. It's formal and dosed. So we've got 10 minutes of moderate intensity exercise through sitting to standing, for example. But actually physical activity is kind of an umbrella term for anything that gets us moving. And really I'm talking about that, but I'm using the term exercise because that's what people are familiar with. And then in terms of thinking about other types of exercise, we do want to incorporate some form of exercise that stretches, that strengthens, and that challenges our balance. And we're thinking about really allowing us to do that sort of activity 2 to 3 times a week. That doesn't mean you have to do 6 different sessions of exercise. A lot of this will overlap. So it's about thinking about what exercise you're currently doing and which categories does that already fit into. And then lastly, we need to think, like I said, about physical activity, the functional aspects. What are you doing already day to day? And what could you increase and build into your routine that is very functional? You don't even have to perhaps get out of the house to do. And that might be practicing standing up, sitting down. It might be going up and down the stairs. It might be going for a walk around the block. So we really, want to be doing a lot, as much functional exercise as possible. Okay, and so there are also some specific principles when we're thinking about exercising that are specific to Parkinson's. And one is thinking about big movement. So we know that Parkinson's, what it can do is it can make our movements smaller and slower. And so by actually trying to do the opposite and exaggerate your movement, there is research to show that it can counteract those symptoms directly. So we're thinking about big movement, but we're also thinking about whole body movement. Again, in the literature, they've shown that if you use whole body movement, then actually it can have a direct impact on specific symptoms, such as handwriting, such as walking. So you don't have to be specific in your targeted body area to have good outcomes. We also want to think about producing really effortful and powerful movement. And what I mean by that is if you think about how hard you're working when you're exercising, and you try to rate that on a scale of 0 to 10, you're aiming for an 8 out of 10 in terms of effort, how hard you're working. And often that might take a bit of practice, particularly if there's a problem with slowness of movement. But what we're really aiming for is really exaggerating as much effort and power into your movement. The more power in the movement, there's more intention and more focus. And that's what we're wanting, because it really wakes up those brain cells and gets that connection working harder. And the more we do that, the stronger that connection will get. And we also want to think about mentally challenging exercise. And the reason for that is because we want to think about how we can train our ability to do more than one thing at once. Again, that can become a symptom in itself. Difficulty thinking about more than one thing, and that's partly why walking and balance can become effective. So people who do have walking and balance problems might find that actually their walking becomes either slowed or less steady when they're doing, perhaps they're having a conversation with their partner, or they're on the phone, or they're carrying something. So they're all secondary activities that are taking the focus away from the walking. So actually, again, there's lots of literature to suggest that if we can train our ability to multitask, there is a training effect. Okay? But it's also important to note, actually, when there's lots of hazards, to be slow and to concentrate on one thing. But so mentally challenging exercise might be where you really have to kind of think about the coordination of the movement. But it also might be quite a straightforward movement that you're doing, but you add in an additional mental task. So that might be listing countries, beginning with different letters of the alphabet. For example, marching on the spot. And lastly, and probably most importantly, we need to make sure that what we choose to do is enjoyable and it's fun and it's engaging, because we don't want to just do exercise for the sake of it. We know that actually we don't get lasting benefits and long-term we're not adhering to it long-term if we don't really enjoy it. And that's the same for boring home exercise programs that physios might do. What you really want to think about is, what did you enjoy perhaps a few years ago? What sorts of sports did you do? What things perhaps you've always thought about trying? And you know, really doing something that interests you will give you that extra motivation and will much more likely allow you to carry on exercising longer term. So just really, it looks like a busy slide, but really it's just to give you an idea of some examples of exercise that are good in Parkinson's. So swimming, Nordic walking, dance, of course, functional exercises, exergaming, I've mentioned that again, Tai Chi, gym-based activities like aerobics, racket sports, boxing. Boxing is a really good example, actually. If we think about this exercise wheel in the middle, and I will give you copies of these slides, so you don't really have to look at that, you can look at that in your own time. But really, that's just to summarise what we've already talked about and give some examples of exercise that fits into the different categories. and the typical dosing that you want to aim for. But remember, there's a lot of overlap in a lot of different exercises. So boxing is a particularly good one. Examples of that where you're gaining cardiovascular benefit, you're getting stronger, you're using power, you're using coordination. It's a huge amount of benefits with boxing. Okay, and then I think lastly, again, going back to the functional exercise, what can you do that you're already doing, but make it a little bit more exercise focused? So, thinking about your heart health work, thinking about the gardening, thinking about, a commute to work or walking the dog. What can you do? Maybe can you push? Can you walk a little bit faster? Could you walk for a little bit further? Could you dance while you're eating? Okay, so that's enough of the chatter. Do I need to do anything? Is the audio okay on Zoom? Yeah.
Thank you, Hannah. I just want to sort of just comment to the people who've joined on Zoom. So first, thank you for joining. I know that we're having technical difficulties. We're learning. One of the things we'll ask you at the end, I mean, we're not set up to do a sort of dual live stream and also in person. So one of the things we'll ask you as part of the feedback is, in moving forwards, is this better than nothing, or should we not even try, or is it at least better than nothing? So I know that you'll be honest with us. And maybe Shema very kindly is monitoring the chat, so we're keeping an eye on things, but do please let us know how it's going, and then let us know what you'd like for the future. We've got the transcript on, so hopefully if you can't hear perfectly, then that should help with so you should be able to feel part of it. So Hannah's now going to do a sort of physical part of the sort of next bit of the programme. We're then going to stop, so that will be the end of the live stream, and the rest of the event is going to be just in the room, and that's because it's been hard enough to do this as live stream, and we knew in advance that the rest of today's programme was not going to be possible as part of the Zoom. So just to prepare you, I think there'll be another 15-20 minutes of physical exercise, and then the Zoom will end, and then we can make plans for whether we do Zoom next time or not. So I'm going to hand you back to Hannah.
So I'm going to try and do this whole while. Okay, so this exercise session obviously is a first tailor it so that hopefully most people can join in. Really, it's up to your discretion. If you feel able to join in, I would really encourage you to. If you can't or don't want to, there's absolutely no obligation to do what you feel you can. Particularly for those at home, make sure that you're in a safe environment. Any sharp edges nearby. I mean, we're not doing any balance challenging today, so that won't be too much of a concern. But make sure you've got some water handy as well. And for those at home, just ask a carer to join in if you'd like, or your family member. If anyone feels any discomfort with any of the exercise, then just stop it. Okay. So, are you sure? Thank you. Okay, so we're going to just start with a nice warm up. So, we're just going to start with our neck. We're going to just move from side to side with our neck, one way, and the other. Times. You're just going as far as you comfortably can go. And then ear to your shoulder. And then chin to your chest. And then I'd like everyone just to come away slightly from the back support. You've got your bottom firmly on the seat, but you're just away from the back. And I want you to just slump down. You have a really hard day on this. Now very tall. maybe overextend. Back into the slump position. And again, and then you're going to come back into the middle, find the middle position. The middle position is what we call our neutral spine. It should be really where our core is well activated, and being away from the back rest kind of forces us to use our core to keep us upright. I want you to try and maintain this position as much as you can throughout the rest of the class. Thank you. So I'm going to ask you to put your arms out in front of you. And then turn them over, so palms are up. Okay, now we're going to put one palm up, one palm down. Speed it up. Good. Okay, stop. This time I'm going to get you to put one fist down and one palm up. And then I want you to alternate. So you're going palm down, fist. Okay, as fast as you can. Stop.
You're going to add some music.
So that's sort of an example of what we were talking about mental challenging exercises. Something like that where you have to really think about it. Okay, so next we'll do shoulder shrugs. And up. And up. And then let's go up and around this time, so backwards. Chest out. Good, okay, and then we're going to start adding our arms in. Yeah, my arms are supposed to do this actually. You're welcome to stand if you are able to see yourself in this space. What we're trying to end up getting to is the point of coming right round if you can. For some people, they might just want to raise that by just doing smaller circles. Good, and then the other side. And then can you do both together? And can you do opposites? Opposites. I can't. So bringing your arms up together and then the opposite direction. And then swap direction. Swap. Okay, that's great. And let's have a turn of feet. Make sure your arms are supported and you're getting that neutral spine again, coming up and down in the middle. Okay, now I want you to up onto your toes and then back down. Nice, lot of pressure through your toes if you can. Really get those calves working. I'm going to repeat that 10 times. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
9, 10. Okay, and now can you bring your one leg, again you might not explain this, but bring your one leg out to the side, and you want to really try to focus on keeping your balance still, so you're just moving from your hip and your leg. And again, we'll do 10 of these. Over 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Everyone feel warmed up? Right, so the next one is a kind task. So I'm going to ask you to stand up, sit down, try not to use your hands as many times as you can in 60 seconds. But 60 seconds actually is quite a long time, so you might just need to pace it out. Okay. Ready, steady, go. Halfway. 10 more seconds. 2, 1, stop. I'm ready. Did anyone count how many legs we're doing? How many did you do? Well done, brilliant. Brilliant, fantastic. Brilliant. So tomorrow, I want you to repeat that and see if you can beat your own personal best. That's a great challenge to just do every day. And I
We got 20.
fantastic. Yes. Well done. I'm really pleased to see you're participating because I can't see you. You've got no one checking up on you. So yeah, it's a really good example of a functional exercise that you can just do. You can either challenge yourself to do a minute or a certain amount of reps, or you could say to yourself, right, I'm going to, every time I get out of my chair, I'm going to actually do 3 or 5 instead of just getting out of the chair. So it just builds in a little bit of strength training with every functional task. Okay. The last main exercise we're going to do is a power exercise. So earlier we talked about using high effort and high power. So this is an example of an exercise you can do that really focuses on that. So I'm not going to explain the exercise, I'm going to just demonstrate it. Again, actually you might want to move your chairs so that you've got a bit more space. It's a sitting down exercise, but you will need a bit of space to either side of you. Okay, all I'll say about the exercise is there's 3 parts. So there's the exercise and there's a pause after each part, which is important. And just thinking about high effort, high power. That's one. And one more. Okay. How do people find that? How did everyone find that? Does anyone want to give any feedback on that? Because it's a bit of a peculiar exercise. We've not seen anything like that before. Yeah, you're right. So it incorporates that high energy, high power focused movement in some of it. So you're getting a really definite start point and a finish point, which you need when you're doing high power. And then yes, that last part is a stretch for your thoracic spine. So that's a really nice bit. And it's nice to be able to actually use your hand, look where your hand is guided, how far you can go. And you can kind of look on the wall or whatever's there to kind of guide how far around you've gone and see if you can increase it with every repetition. With that kind of exercise, you're looking to do perhaps 5 good reps in a row. The more reps you do, you might lose the quality and the effort behind it. So you want to kind of keep it short number of reps so that you can really focus on the real power. We change the slide. Yeah, we're going to do that. Exactly. So should we do 5 on the other side too? Question. So the question was, what specifically are the benefits with doing that kind of exercise? The high power, high effort. And what you're really trying to do is bring in, wake up the brain and try and get the brain cells really active and listening to your body, making it meaningful, precise movement. And that can aid that the pathway and then strengthening it up with the repetition. So this is an approach that's used by PD Warrior and NSVT Big. I don't know if they are familiar approaches to you, but they are, again, research is in idiopathic Parkinson's predominantly, but what they're showing is that these powerful movements are really overcoming the symptoms of slowness of movement, particularly, but also other. Yes, probably actually that is a good example, but not all of these power moves are all not all crossing the body, crossing the midline. The emphasis is on the start and finish and the high power, high speed. Yeah. So Danielle was just saying, that actually you can find more power if you cross the body as well. So that's probably a good particular point for that exercise. But there's lots in standing and stepping as well. Okay, let's do the other side and we'll just finish with a very quick cool down. Like using every muscle. Once you've done 5, you can stop. So really focus on using every single muscle in that limb. Legs wide apart. Using your other opposite hand to help with that stretch.
Okay, and let's just finish with a cool down. So stretch out the calves. One leg in front. You might be wanting to have your bottom slightly off the edge of the chair there. And then bringing your knees straight and your toes up towards you. Then lean into it. And then the other side. And then your shoulders can go to your arms up in the air. That was tremendous. That was tremendous. I feel totally warm now, and I mean, it's fantastic to hear the reasons why exercise helps, and also some really good some practical tips for day to day. And those exercises were brilliant. So thank you, really wonderful. And then we're going to hear from you a bit more in the small group session. So sort of especially thinking about falls prevention, which I think I'm looking forward to doing what we do. Now I'm delighted. I think we're going to end the Zoom. So thank you to everybody who joined on Zoom. Please, as I said, please do let us know how we can improve. I think the audio is the main thing. And thank you for joining, even though it's not quite perfect. And we're going to end there and move on to the next session, next part.